Okay, welcome to the info event for the iLab1 and the iLab2. Whenever you have questions, just interrupt me. I can always tell you much more than I am automatically telling you. We are currently in the winter term, and the info event is, of course, for the summer term. And today we'll give you some information about the iLab1 and the iLab2. They are only labeled 1 and 2 because the iLab1 was there before the iLab2 was established. They are not building upon each other or anything like that. Okay, so they're independent. You can choose both of the practical exercises. They are technically both open for bachelor and master students. The two exercises give 10 ECTS, like every practical exercise in this module. The courses are entirely in English, which is a good thing, also for German students, because you will have to write down things in English and also talk in English a little bit, and so this is a good exercise, because in computer science you will always have to deal with English texts and also to communicate with English customers and co-workers and so on. As you can see on the slide, we had quite a lot of students in the past. The course is originally running since 2004, and yeah, so that means you're in a good tradition. And the good thing is also that the exercises are always getting better each semester, and so I can tell each class where I'm standing in front of here that you will have the best exercises ever, because we always improve them. This is one of the important things with the iLabs. So So we're always working on the content. This is also important because, as you know, computers are changing fast, computer networks are changing fast, and so we're always incorporating new content. For each of these lab courses that you can choose in this module, the expected workload is about 300 hours. So that means when you divide it by the 14 weeks, that the time to be invested per week should be about 21 hours. I can calm you down, so probably none of my students ever spend 21 hours. Well, it's not true to say that. So, but typically what you will have is, I will also come to that later, you have a lecture that typically takes 1.5 hours. Then you have a theoretical preparation that takes as long as you want to spend for it. I encourage you to spend quite some time for it, but typically students spend between 1 and 2.5 hours for that. And then we have the practical part, and in the practical part you will have the opportunity to work in the laboratory room on a test bed for an entire day. And typically the exercises take, well, about 8 hours maybe. So in the team of 2 people. But I'll come to that again, so just that you have an idea what will be expected. So you will need 1 day in the week where you will work in this lab room. So you can also take lectures that day, but this day is reserved for you for that day so that you can work there. And you will need to participate in the lecture, and you will have to spend some time whenever you want before you do the practical part to prepare this theoretical thing. Okay. So what we want to do today is we want to give you some information for your choice to make it easier which course to choose or if the course is the right course for you. And so again, I encourage you, whenever you have questions, just ask me. Okay. So first information, the matching system. So who is not familiar with the matching system yet? Okay, so some people are here. So at TUM, when you want to take part in a practical course, what you do is you express your preference in this system that is called the matching system, and then this system runs an algorithm that does the perfect match. That means when you say you want to take a particular course with priority 1 and another one with priority 2 and so on, it will try to resolve you or to follow your preferences the best way possible. And so what you will have to do if you want to participate in this course is you have to put it into your preference list for the practical exercises, and then hopefully you will be chosen. And there are also some other things that we can do to make you chosen, and I will come to that right now. So, yeah, the matching system. So you enter your preference to the system, and what we can do is we can enter preferences, so that means the students are entering their preferences, so you're doing that. And we can also say we would especially like to have those students in the course. And today you will have the opportunity to leave your matricle number, because then we can exactly put this preference. And that makes the chance that you get selected for one of the iLab courses higher. At the same time, it does not decrease your chance of being selected for another course. So that means you can basically just put your name on the list, and then when you put the iLab with a high priority, it's even more likely that you are selected for that one. Okay. More information is on this website here, and if you want to prefer it, you can scan your ID card or write your matricle number on the list at the end of this event. Okay, also important information, the result of the matching is binding. That means you should not register for 20 lab courses. I mean, it's also not possible, but you should really put the things into the list where you want to participate. Okay. Good. So your preferences here, so as said before, if you put your matriculation number to the list, it does not reduce your chance of being assigned to a course. So if your first preference is course A, and then your second one is iLab, the preference first one here will not decrease in the weight by putting your name on the list. Okay, instead it will increase your chance of being assigned to the iLab in case you're not assigned to the course A, because for people who are not on our list, they will not be as much preferred as you when you're on our list. Okay, and this slide here basically tells you that you should really put your preferences. So you can also say, that all the courses that you list are on preference 1, for instance, or you say, okay, one is preference 1, one is preference 2, and so on. And you should really put the preferences, because then the system will really try to match your preferences, and then you'll more likely get the course. Okay, good. Questions to that? All right. And so if you're absolutely not familiar with the process, just ask your fellow students, colleagues, because for the seminars and so on, they also already had to do this, and so they probably know how to fill it out best. And the main message, again, is the system is working for you. So you don't have to hide anything from the system. It doesn't make sense. All right. So next part, what is special about the iLabs? So this information to give to you today. And so I have 3 points that I want to talk about. So the first one is the didactics. The second one is the people. And the third one is the topics, of course. And I want to start with the didactics because the iLabs follow a special didactic workflow that I started creating in 2003 and improved together with the many people working together with me on the courses, like Minoo, who's sitting here, who's running the iLab1 at the moment, together with others, and also Dominik, who's currently coming in. He's also for the iLab1. Thank you. And Stefan here, he's running the iLab2 together with me. And so all those people, of course, contributed to the methodology, and the methodology proved to be very useful for the people to learn. And the key of the methodology is you. Because what the methodology does is, it puts you into the position that you can do the best self-learning that we could envision you could do. So it motivates you where you could be not so much motivated. So for instance, in the theoretical preparation. And if you follow this workflow, what you somehow have to when you are in the course, then you have the good thing that you are successful in the practical part. And then you're happy about it because there's always a bigger challenge, and in the end you master it. And so this is quite some fun. And as there were 1,800 participants so far, when you look in the older semesters, the chances that someone there took part in the course is highly likely. And so just ask them, or go to the Fachschaft, they also know about it. They can also give you first-hand experience feedback for the 2 courses if you are still unsure about what to take after the meeting today. Okay, some history. So the courses started in 2003, where I was still at another university, and then I moved here in 2008, and then we established the iLab1 here, and then in 2010, I also established the iLab2. And an interesting thing about the iLab2 is that it's always, there are some creations together with the students. So if you're in the iLab2, you will also participate in creating some new exercises that then sometimes make it to the iLab1 or are offered in the iLab2. So this is the course where we also have a lot of new topics in every time. Okay, good. The purpose of this slide is to tell you, okay, when we create an exercise, how do we do it? So we create it, and then the most important thing is your feedback. So in the course, you will notice that we will very often ask you for feedback, and you are allowed to provide it to us. And if you tell us something, we are very happy to improve the exercise. And yeah, this can range from typos, so hopefully we don't have that many in anymore, to, okay, the following content was really boring, we want to have something else in for the next term, and so on. And then we are revising the exercises, and then the exercises are stable and can be run, and you will see that our exercises are quite stable, so it's a lot of fun doing those exercises. Each week we'll have, or for each of the lab modules, so one iLab consists of between 7 and 11 iLab modules. So modules are covering one topic. For instance, looking at transport protocols like TCP and UDP. So this will be a topic for 1 week, or this will be part of 1 week. And the topic starts always with a lecture. In the lecture, you get broader information again about, okay, what was TCP, what was a transport protocol? I mean, not at the low level, but it's still a refresher. And after this broader information, you have the chance, or you are forced to do this pre-lab for the preparation. And then afterwards, you meet with your team partner, and then you're doing the practical part, where you do measurements like congestion control measurements and so on. Okay. Also interesting and important about the iLab didactical concept is that we always have a story. And this is again helping you to get through the exercise because you know, okay, we have a bigger goal, like we are an employee of a company and we have to provide some security means for this and that problem that we have, and then we go with you through this process. But you are solving the problems. So we are just telling you, okay, did you think about this and that? And then you are pointed to, okay, I should think about this and that. Coming back to the structure again, so we have the lecture, the individual preparation, practical teamwork, and then we also have 2 oral attestations. The oral attestation is that, or let's say here, so for that one you do it with your team partner, and so this is then the team grade. And to make sure that each of the participants got the most important points, we have this attestation, and in the attestation we will talk to you about, okay, did you get the most important learning goals? So can you tell us what TCP congestion control is? Can you tell us how the Reno algorithm for that one works? And the thing is, you will have heard about that in the lecture, you will have read about that in the pre-lab, and you will have applied that in the lab. And that means for this attestation, if you actually did the things that you should have done before, it's quite easy to prepare for the attestation. The attestation is only between 10 and 15 minutes, and that means, of course, we will not have much time to talk with you, but we want to make sure that you really get the most important learning goals in this attestation. And you will have 2 of them in the semester. That means 1 after half of the course and 1 after the second half of the course. Questions to that? Yes?
Is this happening every week? Or
which one?
So we have lecture, preparation, and practical teamwork. That's happening every week, right?
That's happening every week, yes.
But the oral exam, that's only twice?
Yes, the oral exam is only twice.
Okay.
That means it's after half of the semester and after the other half of the semester. Sometimes it's also the case that we don't have a lecture in the week because the exercises are bigger, so you have like 2 weeks for it. And then you only have the practical teamwork in that week. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, one important thing also is when I developed this concept, it was important for me to make sure that you can spend most of your time in the actual learning. And so one important thing was to remove the additional reports that you might have had in other lab courses if you participated there. And so what we have is we have instructions, and in the instructions we have questions inline. So for instance, we say, okay, connect the computers like this and that, and then we ask you like, okay, normally you should be able to ping PC 7, for instance, but it's not working, why? And then you have to think about it, discuss with your team partner, write down an answer, and this is the report in the end. So that means when you're through with the exercise, you're also through with this entire module there. Yes?
For the practical teamwork, right?
Yes.
It is allocated for 1 day. What if you couldn't finish it? Is it possible to continue it some other time?
So we have a schedule that we publish. So at the beginning of the semester, each team selects, okay, we want to do, for instance, Wednesday. And we have in the room, we have 6 aisles, so that means 6 teams can work in parallel in this room. And depending on how many people participate in the course, there are 3 aisles, and so you will see it on this list then. Plus we also have an indicator which aisles are currently used, and so if you see, okay, the aisle is currently free, and it was occupied before, then it's likely that the team went away and you can go there. So this is one possibility. Another one is we also have a spare aisle, so in emergency cases you can also use that one on a first come first serve manner, and we always have free slots. So typically that's not a problem. But you should really try to finish within the 1 day because this is the most comfortable for you, also for your schedule. But if you don't finish, or if you're sick, for instance, then there's not a problem. Then you can also do it another day. Okay, good. Yeah, so coming to the week organization, so this is the organization of a typical module. So you start with the pre-lab, and then in this week you have the lecture. then you can do the pre-lab, and then you do the actual lab course in the week afterwards. And yeah, then after you finished with that one, we correct. So this is also very important. So in the iLab, we try to correct very fast. So within 1, maximum 2 weeks. And this is again important for you to get feedback on how you performed and where you did errors. Okay. Yeah, so it starts with a lecture, then you have the online preparation, then you have the practical part in the lab room with your team partner, and then in the follow-up lecture, we also have a discussion about open points, because sometimes you just realize in the practical part, okay, we are unclear about something, we want to talk about it again. Okay, good. So these are the elements again, and this is how the 3 parts look like. So you're in the lab room, you're in the online system, and here you're, this is the lecture room, and here you are in the lab room together with your team partner. We are always recording the lectures. You still have to participate because the lectures are also for discussing with you about the content. But if you want to learn for the attestation, for instance, or if you were not there for good reasons, like being sick and having announced it in advance, then you can also watch the lecture recording and see the things again, plus you get the slides over this system here. Who's familiar with that system? So this is the media system of the chair. Who used it before? Okay, a few people. Yeah, some people. Good. Okay. Yeah, so there are always the links. And yeah, I said before, you get like quite a lot of support via the e-learning system. And yeah, what is most important in the pre-lab is they have multiple choice questions, and the multiple choice questions are the interactive elements. So that means you read something about the, let's stay with the example, TCP congestion control, and then there's some questions about it where you have to think about it, to interact with the learning material, and to point you on what is the most important stuff there. Okay, you also get rankings, so this is a little bit gamification, so there you anonymously see, okay, this is how I'm related to the other people in the pre-lab, so then you know if you're very good prepared or not. Yeah, here are these free text inputs, and there you also get all your credits and everything inside this e-learning system. Okay, so some more special things. So up-to-date content, we have diversity in the content and also in the teams. So typically the iLabs are courses that have lots of international students, which is totally great, because when you work with people who come from another region, they tend sometimes to work a little bit different from yourself, and this is always enriching. Yeah, we have a clear flow of exercises because everything is structured very well to ensure that you reach the learning goals and you don't get lost. At the same time, it's not boring cooking recipes or something like that, but it's challenging exercises where we, with our experience, make sure that you meet all the goals, but you still have the freedom on how to get there. Yeah, you have the questions inline, so on the left we see how a typical course in the e-learning system looks like, and I just scroll through that and tell you more stuff. So learning support, so you have to prepare. So there's always this Obi-Wan Kenobi quote, like, what else is a magician than a practicing theoretist? So that means you need the theory before you can become a magician. And so put to our example, if you don't know how the TCP Reno congestion control works, when you see a graph of how the packets go there or how the window sizes are, you will not understand anything and you will not be able to answer. And this is why this theoretical preparation is very important before you come to the practical part. Okay, we have the instantly correcting multiple choice questions. So this is again about this feedback. So you need fast feedback in order to learn from your errors. This is what we implement. Fast correction. We have redundancy, meaning you hear about the most important topics in the lecture, in the pre-lab, in the lab, and then you learn again for it in the oral attestation, and that means you heard about it at least 4 times, and hopefully when I wake you up in 2 years at night, you will still remember what the TCP congestion control works like. Yeah, and then we have the teamwork, so this is also a very important component. In the iLab, for instance, you're also allowed when you're in this room together with the other teams to support each other. So if I'm in the room and I'm getting stuck, and Minoo and Dominik are also there, I can go to them and ask them, like, okay, we're doing the same exercise, we get stuck here, can you help us a little bit? And then it's fine if they tell you like, okay, did you check this and that? Or if they even come to your computer and look a little bit what they find. But what is important to us is that you yourself as team then afterwards know what the problem was, and next time you can fix it hopefully yourself. And most important, you're of course not allowed to copy answers from someone else. So you always have to formulate and do the things on your own, or the other people can help you. And together with your direct team partner, it will be a very intense interaction because they will have to discuss the answers that you put to those questions because you will only have one shared answer field. And so if I'm a very weak student and my partner is a very strong student, you still have to put the answers together. Because when I, as a weak student, would always write it, then probably the other one would not be happy about the low score that she might get if I would write bad answers. Okay, and you also get additional skills. So of course you will learn something about the networking topics, but you will also have something about teamwork and many more things in the course. So debugging, for instance, is also something that you will be probably much better after having taken the course because you would have had to debug things in all these 10 modules. Okay, good. Yeah, so this is what I told you. So this is, for instance, one place where you can put feedback. And we can do something with it. Okay, here are some more feedback opportunities that you get there, summarized. And one important thing in the course is you will learn from each other. So within your team, you will especially build knowledge. And there, another anecdote. So if you have teams that are not equal in the knowledge, which will always be the case, this is good, because even if you're a very good student, if the weaker student is asking you some questions, you will be surprised in how interesting these questions can be, because these will typically be things that you did not even consider that these could be problems. Then you will also learn something about it. All right, good. So now let's have a look at the lab room. So this is the FMI building, and we are going to our lab room right now. Okay, and as you can see, iLab students are always happy. So this is very important. Okay, good. So this is the lab room, and it looks similar to this one. So we changed the sides. So this is why. Oh no, it's like this. So this is the actual picture. And one of these places here, this is called one aisle, and this is the place that you get together with your team partner. And as you can see, we have 2 monitors and 6 computers and 2 Cisco routers and some switches. And as we have 2 monitors, the reason is that there are 2 people in the team. And so the exercises are designed that you work together, so each partner has to do something, and you both can look at things in the internet and so on. So this place is especially designed to support you in the learning experience that we have there. Okay, good. So, questions? If not, what is the difference between the iLabs? So one big difference, of course, is the people. So you will be in the room together with different people. So this is an iLab2 setting. Maybe you know some people from the picture. So these are the participants, and these are the people who are responsible for running the course. And so we have Florian here, and Dominik and Minoo. So they are the ones for the iLab1. And again, Stefan here for the iLab2. Yeah, and it's always my pleasure to say that it's very great to work with those people because they're very, very enthusiastic in doing what I'm currently talking to you about, namely putting a very good learning experience for you together. Okay, and plus we have very good Hiwis. It's also always a pleasure working with them, and they will be responsible for the correction of the exercises and your feedback, for instance. Okay, good. So, what else is different? Of course, the topics. And we'll start with the iLab1, and I guess Florian will say something about that. Wait.
Okay. I'm equipped. I will present topics of iLab1. So basically, we want the iLab1 is about learning the basics of the internet and learning how to set up the basic services that rely on the public internet. And so the basic principle of the internet is to connect machines, and we call them two peers. Sometimes there's also some intermediates in between, but and security, and this will also be part of what we learn in the second part of the iLab, as we will see. Why should you even care about the network? Many people care about developing applications because that's interesting. You can build something new, and why should an application developer care about the network? It's simply because many of today's applications, they use the network very heavily, and when something goes wrong with the network, then we cannot always abstract this away from the application user. So it's beneficial for every application developer to know something about networks. Those of you who have already heard a networking course should already be familiar with these layers here. So in order to simplify what's happening on the network, we chunk all the tasks that have to be done into different layers, and each layer has a different, takes care of a different task. So we will be talking about these different example protocols that are located at different layers that are stacked on top of each other. If you are not familiar with this at the moment, don't worry, you can still use the iLab1. So we do not require you to have prerequisite networking knowledge. You do not have to have already heard a basic networking course, but it will for sure be a lot more effort in the beginning to keep up with the others and to get started in this course. However, it is possible, and there have been students who have done that, who did the iLab1 without prior networking knowledge. In 10 labs, we will cover different topics, and we will start with the very basics to introduce you to the setting of the iLab and also to introduce you to the tools that we want to use. For example, we will heavily use a tool called Wireshark, and using this tool, you can observe the traffic that flows on the links. And we will do some introductory examples. We will focus on the two lowest layers, the link layer and the network layer. The network layer has protocols, for example, IPv4 and IPv6, and the neighbor discovery protocol, IPv6. In the second lab, we will talk about static routing. This means now we go up to the network layer and set up routes so that different hosts can talk to each other and can also forward messages on behalf of others. You will be introduced to the Cisco routers in our lab setup, and you will also do basic packet forwarding. Next, we will learn that manually setting up routes is rather tedious and error-prone, so we will find, and also does not scale to the size of the internet, so we will find protocols that take care of this and do, in an automated way, find paths from one hop to another hop, and now use these paths to populate routing tables in the different routers. You will also learn what autonomous systems are, and so this is an integral part of today's internet, and how to look at different dynamic routing protocols, for example, the OSPF protocol. And BGP is another one. Next, we will go into the transport layer protocols, and this is where it gets interesting in terms of performance. For example, in the TCP lab. TCP and UDP are two transport layer protocols, and they take care of application-to-application addressing on top of IP that takes care of host-to-host addressing. Also, TCP has some interesting things built in that limit the bandwidth that TCP is using in order to make it fair for everybody, or try to make it fair for everybody. And this is things. So this is the performance that we will analyze here of different TCP streams. Next, we'll have a look at the dynamic name service. So we will have a look at the DNS system, how a DNS domain can be resolved to, for example, an IP address, and we will you will also set up your own root DNS zone, and you will completely set up your own DNS system that's independent from the internet's DNS system. We will learn about the dynamic host configuration protocol that can be used to assign IP addresses to hosts in an automated way. So assuming that you operate a large network or even just a home network, it's convenient that you do not have to think about which IP addresses you give out to your devices, and this just happens in an automated fashion. And we do have something that's familiar for many people in their home networks. So many home routers, or more, almost all of the home routers, they implement network address translation, which means they translate IP addresses from a private IP address space to a public IP address space, and we will have a look at how this works and how this breaks some applications in this lab. Next, we start with a row of security topics, which is, we start with the transport layer security protocol that's used to secure websites, for example, and also we will look at packet filtering, so setting up a firewall. The topic number 8, if I counted correctly, is IPsec. We will set up a virtual private network between two parties, and this virtual private network is, for example, often used to connect remote hosts to a central location, and we will have a look into the IPsec protocol in specific, which is a rather complicated protocol, but we will learn some basics of how IPsec works and how we can use it in practice and apply it in practice. Next is onion routing. How can we anonymize routing? So we want to have the separation of the network identity and routing. This is something that, for example, the Tor network does, that uses the concept of onion routing. So we will set up a Tor network, and you will also try to de-anonymize parts of this network based on techniques, for example, traffic analysis in your onion routing network. And the final lab will be on wireless LAN. So as you may have noticed, we went up from the lower layers up to the higher layers, and now we're back to the very lowest layer again, so we're back to layer 2, and we will take a look at what wireless transmissions, how wireless transmissions work, in contrast to wired transmissions. So all the 9 labs up to now, we were using cables and wired transmissions, and now we will look into how the 802.11, so the Wi-Fi standard, works, and also set up your own access point and breaking an old, outdated wireless encryption, the WEP protocol, for example. I already mentioned that it is beneficial to have previously heard an introductory level networking course, but we do not see this as a strict requirement. So if you're willing to put in a little bit more, or if you're willing to put in more effort, especially at the beginning, to catch up with the others who have already heard something, a basic networking course, then this is still, of course, doable. The lecture will be every Thursday afternoon, so please reserve the slot and make sure you are available in this time slot, because the lecture will be mandatory and you will be required to attend the lecture every week.
The lectures on Tuesdays.
All right.
Which time?
Tuesday afternoon, right?
4.
Okay, thank you. I think the slide was not updated since the last semester, so please, sorry for that. The lecture will be held on Tuesdays and not Thursdays.
And this information is also into online, so when you look there, so when you follow the link for the course information, then you see when the lectures will be.
If you want to prepare for this course, there is some suggested reading that you can look up, and so these, for example, basics of TCP/IP, and also goes to modern cryptography, because we will use cryptography in many occasions, for example, for setting up a TLS web server or for a virtual private networks and onion routing. So many of our security principles involve cryptography, so that's also something that we cover here in this course. This was my part. Do you have any questions to me, Dominik, or Minoo, so the iLab1 advisors?
All right, I will also be around, so you can also ask them later. But if you have some of the topics especially, this would be the time to ask them.
Thank you. All right, so untangle.
All right. Yeah, thank you, Florian. I also put you together a sheet where you have the topics on again for the iLab1 and the iLab2, and if you want, you can later grab one of them. So this was what Dominik was copying and bringing in at the beginning. Yeah. Okay, good. So the iLab1, in a nutshell, is if someone is shutting down the internet tomorrow, you will be able to set up the internet again from scratch, given that someone provides you with the open source tools for that. Because you will configure all the key components that are in this internet, and this is what the iLab1 main content is about. If you think, okay, I already know about all this, or I would like to go into different topics because I can learn this side anyways, and so I want to go for a little different topics, then you can also consider going to the iLab2. In the iLab2 we will use Linux, so you should be able to use Linux, and we will also use networking tools. So it's an advantage if you're a little bit familiar with ping, for instance, or if you played around with your net setup before and so on. Okay, but like in the other one, it's not needed, but then you will have to invest quite some more time at the beginning in order to catch up with those people having more background. Okay, these are the topics of the iLab2, and yeah, so to tell you something about the structure once again. So typically you have a lecture here, and then the exercise for that lecture is then the week afterwards. Okay, the first topic is the famous IPv6, the brand new protocol that came out last year. So the protocol that came out about more than 10 years ago, and is replacing IPv4 and is getting more and more adopted in the internet. Especially in the Asian region, they have much more IPv6 deployments still because they ran out of addresses earlier than Europe, for instance, but for us it also gets more and more important to transition to that technology. Plus, IPv6 also has some advantages to IPv4 regarding performance and so on, and so it's also faster there. Okay, so then we'll look at the IPv6 next. The iLab2 is also called You Set the Focus, because you will be able to select topics that you want to learn about. So you will be able to select 2 topics out of a pool of several, like 20 exercises, and these exercises will be run then by the course. And so in the background you see some examples. Yeah, we'll tell you more about that in the first iLab2 event then. Okay, then these are some topics, so blockchain for instance, or yeah, we built some NSA attacks here. So these are possible topics that you can select, but we have more topics. Okay, then the next topic we look at is BGP. So you might have heard about interior gateway and exterior protocols. And so the OSPF that Florian was talking about, this is typically ran within an AS and between 2 ASs, so 2 units in the internet, you have the BGP protocol. You might have heard about some incidents where some accidental wrong routing or some planned rerouting of content was going on. So the most recent one was that Facebook, Google, and so on were shifted somehow to Russia, I guess, because they wanted to spy on their own people, but they misconfigured and then it got problems. And here you will get an hour on, okay, so why can that happen and what are the messages that are exchanged there? And you will set up your own BGP topology. Then we'll also look at wireless. So there you will look at WPA2 security. So that means how can we break security standards that are considered more secure than the wireless LAN WEP security protocol, for instance, and so on. Okay, then we'll have some shared lecture with the iLab1 where you get some background about cryptography that you can participate if you're interested in. And the next thing will be the security lab. So here we'll have a black box and it's running some web services and so on, and you're attacking this black box and finding out which are the security holes that this black box has. The next exercise is then about hardware making, so there we'll play around a little bit with an Arduino. You will build your own device, you will write the firmware for it, and then afterwards have something that is an IoT device that's blinking and belling and whistling. The follow-up of that one is then, okay, having built our own device, how can we put such devices together in order to implement some use cases, some IoT use cases, like when my computer load is too high, then the red LED on this board is going on, or whatever fancy thing you might think of. A friend of mine, he built the clock from Harry Potter that is showing with his with the indicator how far from home his children and his wife are. So leaving the privacy implications away, it might be a nice gadget to build. And so afterwards, you know, like, okay, this is how such a thing could be built together. And then we come to the biggest part of the iLab2, and the biggest part of the iLab2 is your exercise. And in this part, you are creating your own small exercise. And that means probably each of you is expert in something. And in this part, I will guide you through, like, okay, which are the steps that are necessary to build an exercise like the other iLab exercises that you did before. And if your result is good enough, then your exercise will be put into the pool of exercises that future students can select from. And then it might well be that in 2 years, you get an email like, okay, I just did your exercise and it was really cool, it was real fun. And so currently we're in the phase of doing that with the iLab2 students, so they're currently about finishing that. And you will certainly have some of the exercises they are just creating in the next term to select from. Okay. And in this part, this goes for about 6 weeks. And yeah, there you have different phases. You will also review the creation of another team, and you will get lots of insights in how do I prepare material to present it to someone, which will always be important in your work, also about how to give feedback, and you will also look at, okay, we created something, is it of good or bad quality? And so there you will improve yourself a lot in your teaching skills and also in your interaction skills with other people. Okay, so these were the topics for the iLab2 and the iLab1. Do you have questions? Yes.
Do you have to have a prerequisite knowledge of networking for iLab2? It seems like.
So as said, you do not necessarily have to, but for instance in the BGP lab we will have a small part where you look also at OSPF, and there you will also have to configure much smaller parts than in the iLab1 of the OSPF. And if you have heard about how you can configure the RA daemon or something like that, it's an advantage, but it's not needed. So if you, for instance, say that you worked with a Linux shell before, and you logged into your router and looked at, okay, this is how IP tables looks like, then this should be sufficient. So you don't have to be the network expert, but the iLab1 is definitely starting more from scratch because the iLab1 is also created in the way that at the beginning you have much more tutorial-like exercises, so the first 2 1-2 ones, and then afterwards you're on your own. In the iLab2 we directly start with, okay, here's an exercise. We also give you the other exercises, so you can even do them before the semester starts, but we will not take time for that or give tutoring on that one. So that means if you're totally new to networks, probably the iLab1 is a much better course. If you're somehow familiar with it and think the iLab2 topics are interesting for you, then the iLab2 is totally fine. Yes, please.
But will the basic introduction lecture in the bachelor about networking be enough for iLab to understand?
Yes, if you follow the exercises, it will definitely be enough. So, as this question comes, so the iLab1 will also cover many of the topics that you did in the Grundlagen Rechnernetze course. So there you will have again the practical exercises about that one, but it also goes beyond, of course. I mean, I don't know how much you did about onion routing, but I would expect you didn't do too much about that. And the iLab2 will, well, it will also cover it, but it will more go into the direction of network security, for instance, and so on. But if you heard Grundlagen Rechnernetze and you were able to follow the exercises well, then you are perfectly prepared for the iLab2. Yes, please.
So the previous slide you mentioned 6 or different kinds of exercises. Apart from this, you also said we have a separate course or separate topic that you have to choose. Yeah. For
this part?
Yeah. For these are exercises, right? Separate exercises.
No. So this is one exercise. These are just the different phases of the exercise. So the exercises you see on top. So we have the IPv6 here, then the BGP, advanced wireless, security, then these are the IoT labs, and then this is the big exercise that we currently see, and it consists of these different parts. So this exercise will go for 6 weeks, and we will have several meetings. So as you see with the colored bubbles here, we will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 meetings for this exercise, and I will go with you through the steps that you need to create a very good exercise. And so this is why it has so many phases. And so there we go for this one exercise through many phases, and you will choose the topic, so that means you will go through all the phases with your individual topic, but for all the teams, the phases will be the same, and all teams will exchange with each other, like, okay, we created this one, look at this, it's really nice, and the others did something else, and we will compare which are the advantages of all, and see, like, okay, I could improve here, they could improve here, so it's a So this is a very team experience because all the teams are working, they're independently working, but then we have many exchange phases where you do something together with the others.
So the topic that we choose here is on the list that you mentioned?
No, the topic is totally free. It should have to do something with networks. So you can do with networks and distributed systems. So you can choose whatever you want. So one topic could also be data analytics with R, that we take some data from some routers or something and you develop together with the students in your exercise. You imagine students like, okay, this is how you analyze the data. Or if you want to build another NSA attack, this could be something. Or if you think IoT device building, this is my expertise here, I want to go. Or if you are into mail server setup. So this is really free. So people can choose whatever they want. We also have topic finding phases at the beginning where we do some brainstorming and then you do some pitching and you present the topics and the group is voting. So yeah, so there you will definitely find something that is interesting and suitable. Other questions? Okay, good. So most important thing is when you were assigned to the course, the next mandatory thing you have to do is to be there at the kickoff for your course, for the iLab1 or the iLab2, and this will happen in the first week of the semester. Okay. I also put the flyer here for the poster that you might have seen. So if you have some more friends who want to participate but did not participate today, feel free to take one of the flyers and give it to them, because the iLabs are most fun when they are full. So when we have many people, because then you have more interaction and it's more fun. And so for us, it's always good to have full courses there, and so please motivate your fellow students. Maybe also you have a team partner who did not come here today, but this is the person you want to work with. Motivate them. This sheet and the sheet with the topics are both here, so feel free to pick one or two or how many you want. A brief announcement, so in the right after this lecture period, we will create a massive open online course that is covering similar topics to the iLab1, and there we will search for beta testers. So if you're interested in testing the course, like in March or something like that, feel free to contact me or Stefan. And yeah, so this about that. Or if you think, okay, I already know about everything about the iLab1 and I want to participate in the course, either as someone creating something for it or as someone testing the content, also contact us. We're happy about some more people participating in this effort. If you look at a bachelor or master thesis later, feel free to look at the staff members at the chair, and when you find they have interesting topics but they don't offer the bachelor thesis I want to go for, just talk to them. Typically they will be able to create something for you. And now last slide. If you want to be preferred in this matching, then scan your card now with Stefan or put your name on the list, because then we will put your name into this TOM online list, and that will prefer you in the matching to other people who did not put their name on the list, in case you are eligible for this iLab. The emails for more information, I also put them on the sheet here, so when you want to know something else, just write an email there. And yeah, if there are no more questions, thanks for your attention, and inform other people, and hopefully see many of you in the next term.